News at 10.
Good evening. It was indeed an historic day as a new era dawns for Israelis and Palestinians.
After decades of bloodshed and death, hatred and horror, the leaders of Israel and the PLO met today to sign an agreement for peace, replacing pistols with pens and hand grenades with a simple handshake. It was a breathtaking moment of hope and history as President Clinton emerged from the White House flanked by Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat. Two men have been mortal enemies for a generation, putting aside the pain of the past to nurture the promise of the future. All it took was a sweep of a pen as Israel's Foreign Minister Shimon Peres and a top Arafat aide signed the peace accord that will bring Palestinian rule to the Israeli-occupied West Bank and Gaza Strip. The leaders present hailing this historic agreement.
We say to you today, in a loud and a clear voice, enough of blood and tears. Enough.
Without peace in the Middle East, peace in the world will not be complete.
The children of Abraham, the descendants of Isaac and Ishmael, have embarked together on a bold journey. Together, today, with all our hearts and all our souls, we bid them shalom, salam, peace.
And for the thousands of dignitaries and diplomats and even former presidents who watched today's events at the White House and many more who saw it around the world via live television, it was truly an amazing sight as these longtime foes signed an historic deal for peace. Mark Mooney was at that ceremony today, and he has a live report for us from the White House now. Mark?
Jack, this had to be one of the most historic, indeed most memorable days at the White House in a long, long time, to see peace break out between ancient, implacable enemies. You just know that something as momentous as this wasn't long in the making. The breakthrough came on Bill Clinton's watch, but it was former President Jimmy Carter who laid the groundwork in the Camp David Accords, and former President George Bush who got the parties to sit together in Madrid. American resolve over several decades finally paid off. It didn't seem to matter that this all came about under the auspices of Norway. For the president whose luck it was to have the Israelis and Palestinians sign a peace agreement in his backyard now, it mattered only that it happened.
Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Chairman, I pledge the active support of the United States of America to the difficult work that lies ahead.
Wearing his trademark keffiyeh, PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat basked in the sunshine of legitimacy, having played for 40 years the roles of a wandering guerrilla leader and international pariah. He listened to his arch nemesis explain what it was like for him to take the road less traveled.
It's not so easy. Neither for myself, as a soldier in Israel's war, nor for the people of Israel, not to the Jewish people in the diaspora, who are watching us now with great hope mixed with apprehension.
Pledging to uphold the values of peace, freedom, and coexistence, Arafat addressed the Israeli people and their leaders directly.
Let me assure them that the difficult decision we reached together was one that required great and exceptional courage.
After the foreign ministers signed the Declaration of Principles, came what had to be the climax of the day. Like two feuding cousins making up, Arafat extended his hand to Rabin, while President Clinton stepped back like a benevolent uncle. The Israeli leaders, Rabin and Peres, met briefly with President Clinton in the Oval Office after, and they went home to Israel today. Arafat, for his part, went over to the State Department to meet with Secretary of State Warren Christopher. He is staying overnight, and then tomorrow morning he will meet with some congressional leaders on Capitol Hill, and then he has a speech scheduled at noon at the National Press Club. This is Mark Mooney reporting live at the White House.
Mark, what's going on down in Washington tonight, if anything?
Well, in the Blue Room here at the White House tonight, there was a celebratory dinner with three former presidents in attendance, Ford, Carter, and Bush. The latter two, Carter and Bush, are spending the night as guests of Bill Clinton, and it's believed it's the first time that three presidents have been under the roof here overnight at the White House.
Okay, thank you, Mark, very much.
And in the Mideast, reactions of both joy and anger to today's signing ceremony. Palestinians waved flags and cheered wildly in the Gaza Strip and Jericho, while young Jews in Jerusalem were dancing in the streets to celebrate peace. But those sentiments were not shared by everyone. Palestinians in Jordan and Syria burned PLO leader Yasser Arafat in effigy, while in Lebanon, security forces fired on protesters, killing 7 people and wounding 41. This as some on both sides of the issue expressed outrage at the peace deal.
Our people will not tolerate what Arafat has done. Anwar Sadat did the same and paid with his life. The people will take out their vengeance.
Others, like me, believe that this is merely a paving stone, a very rapid move towards a PLO state, which will lead to the next war, to increased terrorism, ultimately to conflict.
And confrontations over the peace plan reached even to the White House. Several people arrested in a clash between Palestinians and Jews near the White House that came within minutes of today's signing. Jack?
All right, here is what that peace accord actually means to the people in Israel and in the occupied territories. The plan calls for an elected Palestinian council to take over the governing of Jericho and Gaza, with negotiations for Israeli withdrawal from all the occupied territories to begin no later than the 3rd year of the 5-year agreement. And the accord is already leading to other moves in the Middle East. Jordan is reportedly ready to announce a peace agreement with Israel, and negotiations with Syria on the disputed area of the Golan Heights are now set to get underway.
Like their brothers and sisters in Israel, Jews in our area are reacting to today's historic agreement with a mixture of hope and fear. Hope that peace is at hand, but fear that this might be just another PLO trick. Barry Cunningham has this part of the story.
One of the most powerful moments in the history of the Jewish people left many New York Jews ambivalent, unsure whether to rejoice or tremble with fear. Rabbi Richard Thaler of Sutton Place Synagogue has made 28 trips to Israel. Watching the signing ceremony in New York, he knew only too well that the hand of peace offered by PLO chairman Yasser Arafat is a hand with Jewish blood on it.
I think the Prime Minister was correct in receiving the hand of peace. Nevertheless, many Jews are weary about the sincerity of that extended hand. We pray for peace, and yet we need to remain on guard.
To other members of the congregation, Arafat has always been just another word for terrorist, and it's not easy to accept yesterday's enemy as today's friend.
I was very touched, more touched than I thought I would be, and really felt very tearful got very teary-eyed when Arafat put his hand out to Rabin. That was quite a moment in my life as far as I'm concerned.
I was born in Hungary, which is now no longer a communist country. I remember the Berlin Wall going up and coming down, and I saw the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and I see this in broad strokes in that context, and that's the report we saw start out with the word amazing. It's overwhelming that this has happened in a couple of years.
I was really quite overwhelmed at the prospect of a peace in the Middle East, of the thought that in my lifetime I could travel from here to Israel and be perhaps safe.
Having prayed and hoped for peace for 30 years, now that the hand of peace has actually been extended in the Mideast, it may take some time for American Jews to absorb the shock. At the Sutton Place Synagogue, Barry Cunningham, Channel 11, News at 10.
That word shock could also describe the reaction of some Arabs in our area, shocked by the thought that peace may in fact be on the way with the people they once vowed to destroy. Deborah Quintana reports.
Car horns sounded with celebration, and red, white, black, and green colors of the Palestinian flag waved proudly through Main Street in Paterson, New Jersey. In this Arab, in fact mostly Palestinian neighborhood, all business nearly stopped as attention poised to witness history. Inside the Jordan restaurant where the regulars dine on pita bread and hummus, no one dared block the view of the live televised coverage. You can see it in their faces, in their eyes. The opinions of these Palestinians are clearly divided. One man's head cradled in his hands in disapproval, while another hopeful. One nervously fingered prayer beads. Their opinions are divided along generational lines. A round table of an older generation of men from the West Bank feel betrayed by PLO leader Yasser Arafat. They don't mince words. One said Arafat is simply crazy.
Everything is not right. The peace is not right. Everything is not right.
Not good for us.
Why?
We need all country, all Palestine, not only Gaza and Jericho.
While the older generation would prefer to see Jerusalem and other lands under solely Palestinian rule, the younger generation is satisfied with this step towards peace.
We've got to live like we used to 100 years ago. We used to live as a bunch of people, Arabs, Christian, Muslim, and Jews.
After today, I hope no blood.
We tried war, so we try peace now.
But while opinions in this community are clearly split, they do agree that the world must look at this treaty as not the end of a chapter in history, but as a new beginning. In Paterson, New Jersey, Deborah Quintana, Channel 11 News at 10.